Who does she think she is? Who does he think he is? Who do you think you are? If you've ever been on the receiving end of those comments, or if you've ever heard that or said that about others, you understand what it feels like to belong or not to belong. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to take some time to reflect on what belonging means. And I think about it from when I was a child, when I was a teenager, and we were all in those moments of being teenagers, understand that sometimes that's a bit of a struggle to feel like you belong. But I also think about it from my adult years, even to now. So today, we're going to just look at what this means. But it's not going to just be me doing this up here alone. I want us to be doing this together. Here's you. Here's me. I want you to think about a community in which you currently belong. And I want you to think about when was the first time that you realized that you were part of that community? When was the first time that you felt like, ooh, they get me and I get them? What was it that they said? What was it that they did to have that kind of transformative effect on you so that you knew that you felt that you belonged? We have a responsibility not only to others, but also to ourselves to understand ourselves more and more so that no matter where we show up in the world, we have that element of belonging. It's not just about inclusion. It's not just about being invited to the party. It's about feeling like I actually am meant to be here. People see me. They understand me. They feel that I am part of their community. Now, in a lot of the spaces that I find myself, often I am the only one. And when I say I'm the only one, normally I'm meaning that I'm the only black female in the room. But that doesn't determine whether or not I feel like I belong, because my sense of belonging is not tied to other people. It's tied to myself. It's tied to my ability to feel like I understand who I am and how I choose to show up as a result of that. So we're going to take some time today to just kind of evaluate ourselves in this whole process, because really, all the things that come with belonging and creating those inclusive communities, it starts with us personally. So how does that go? I want us to have a common understanding based on what Cornell University says about belonging being that feeling of security and support, especially when that sense of support, acceptance, inclusion, and identity is associated with a group. All of us have those different communities, and it's important for us to see ourselves in those spaces. But I feel like Cornell University is missing out on one thing that the Othering and Belonging Institute includes. They say it's not just about access, it's also about us being able to use our voices to co-create the community that we're in. It's not just about, oh, again, I've been invited to the party. It means that I have a choice to determine what music are we playing? What food are we eating? How are we going to have these different games so that everybody has a great time? How do I feel like when I go home, I had some way of contributing to that community, to that space, and also made sure that other people felt like they belonged in that process? A lot of times, we hope for the best, but it's about being intentional and creating these different spaces for one another. So belonging is all of our responsibility. Now, in order to understand who I am, in order for you to understand who you are, we have to talk about reflection. So if I say reflection is, how would you fill in the blank? Reflection is hard. Reflection is difficult. Reflection is time-consuming, and nobody has any time these days. I know when I was an English teacher, I would tell my students after they wrote a piece of literature for their written task, I said, I want you to reflect on that, because the IB wanted them to reflect on it. And they were like, reflect? I just want the grade. Give me the grade and let me just keep going. I don't need to do all the reflecting. But in that process of reflection, they started to understand why they did what they did and why they ended up with the grades that they ended up as well. They had to go through that thought process of, wow, I thought just putting words on a page was enough. But when I chose to say elaborate, what did I want to get out of that? What did I want the reader to reflect on those words? So for us, reflection, I want us to think about it as a tool. I want us to think about it as a practice, something that should be a habit, something that is regular, consistent, to help us not only understand how we're showing up in the world, but then how we show up impacts the other people around us. And I love reflection. All of my journals tell me, and there's a different journal for pretty much every part of my life. And what's great is over the time that I've been writing journals, and it's since I was a child all the way till now, I keep going back to reflect on what I wrote. What did I say when I was a teenager? What did I say when I was in my 20s before I was a mom? What did I say once I did have children, and now that they're grown and graduating university? Who am I now? Being able to go back to say, this is who I was back then, these are the things that I cared about all those years ago, and this is who I am now. Did I do what I said I wanted to do? Did I show up as I wanted to show up? Have my dreams changed along the way? Being able to reflect on who I was to bring me to this moment right now has been very important to me. So I will take myself for a coffee. I will put all of my journals out. I will read about my past self and realize, wow, you've grown in so many great ways, but you still have a lot of work to do. But be comfortable in that reflective space. So I encourage you, if you're not a journaler, become one, even if it's just 2 minutes a day, journal. So why might we not take that time to reflect? Sometimes it's uncomfortable. When we're thinking about reflection, it really does come down to looking at the past without bias, without judgment, ideally, to see what happened in that space, to evaluate how I showed up, how I impacted others, how I decided to live my life that day, and maybe I did a really good job, maybe I didn't. And sometimes it's painful to look at that. As much as it's supposed to be without judgment and without bias, we have emotions that will be stirred as we're going through those reflective practices. And sometimes we don't want to sit with those emotions, but we have to. Other barriers are just time. We're constantly going, constantly moving. The life tells us that we don't have time to stop and reflect. Instead, we focus on going, going, going. So instead of just being, so that we can understand where we belong, where we can just be, we like to be human doings, right? We're supposed to be human beings. We're supposed to be able to just sit in our space, but we don't have time for that because life tells us you have to move on to the next thing. You have to constantly be doing because if you're not doing, you're falling behind. Well, guess what? If you're not taking that time to be, you're going to end up 40 years down the line and just realize, hey, how did I get here? Am I happy with where I am? I really don't know. So taking that time to have just those moments of just being is important. And we're going to just be today. We're going to do and be at the same time, okay, as we go through these reflective practices. So we're going to take a moment. Everybody in this room, I think, will be able to identify with where I want to take us to the past in that element of belonging. Imagine, if you will, a classroom. And when you're thinking about a classroom, I don't want you to just think about any classroom. I want you to think about that one teacher that made all the difference for you. So that one classroom, that one teacher. And for me, I will give you grade 7, grade 8, grade 11, grade 12, and grade 10. My teachers, Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Durant, Mrs. Pons, Mrs. McLeod, they did wonders for me and shaped who I am as an educator right now. When I think about those old teachers that you had, think about why you're thinking of that one teacher. What did they do? What did they see about you? What kind of environment did they create for you? I like to think of teachers as belonging experts. Often in our schools, more is caught than is taught. Yes, we're going to learn the Pythagorean theorem. Yes, I taught the 5-paragraph essay. We had to learn that. We had to learn structure. But what I wanted my students to know more from me was about who they are. I wanted to reflect back to them who I thought that they could be, revealing their potential to them. Teachers are the belonging experts because they have, let's just say 20 students show up in class today. It's the first day of school. Those 20 students are going to be a different set of students by the last day of school. And that teacher has to make adjustments every single day for the students who show up. They know their needs, they know their interests, they know that, they just had a heartbreak today, we're going to have to make some adjustments if we're doing Romeo and Juliet. They know a lot, and they're constantly evolving and moving and adapting to make sure that their students are prepared not only to be successful at that subject matter, but really successful at life. And as they're walking through the hallways, their students are watching them. They're understanding that, they get me. They've created an environment where I feel like I belong, and I'm connected to my other classmates as well. So it's not just the teacher understands me, it is really coming up with a system, an environment where everybody feels like they can reach their highest potential. Those are those expert teachers that are out there. They make sure that every student feels seen and heard, valued, appreciated, respected, and represented. And when we're talking about representation, that's even in the curriculum. Whatever they're teaching, they're making sure that every student can find themselves in that curriculum in some kind of way. They know that, hey, I'm an anime lover. They might connect things to anime at different points in the curriculum, just because they know it's important to their students. They are the experts at belonging, and we're learning so much from them. Now, we have a lot of us in the room have graduated. We are no longer in the classroom learning from those teachers, but the lessons that they taught us back then still apply now, and they always will apply. We just have to remind ourselves that they're teaching us those lessons, and that's where that element of reflection comes into play. So that's the past. Now, I want us to reflect on the present, where we are right now. When you showed up tonight, I want you to think a moment. We all knew that the theme was reflection. What did you expect? How did you show up today? Did you expect to learn, to do some of your own reflection, to have questions that you're just, I'm going to write that down and save that for later? Did you think about also how you wanted to interact with the other people around you? When it comes to reflection, it also is about being intentional with where we go, how we show up, and how we invite ourselves into a space, and how we create that sense of belonging for ourselves and then the people around us. So when I talk about being intentional, I'll give you an example. When I travel, these are my shirts. I intentionally wear a shirt that has all these things about love and kindness and empathy, because when you're walking through an airport security and people see you wearing this shirt, they tend to be nicer to you. And so it helps a lot. Or with kindness crew, like, okay, I love your shirt, it's so good, yes, thank you. Now I do this for them, but even more so, I do it for myself. Imagine one of my latest flights, it was a 9-hour flight where I needed to get a lot of work done. And I love working on planes because you're in your protected space, you just have time to focus. And so you're watching everybody get onto the plane, you're like, okay, that person, good, yep, keep going. And then a father and his 2-year-old son sit next to me. And all I can think of is, I have a lot of work to do, and this adorable 2-year-old is not going to be the person who's going to let me get that work done. Going to be a distraction. In that moment, and in all the moments, especially when I have these shirts on, I remind myself it's not just to remind other people to be kind, to be nice, to be operating with empathy. Instead, it's a reminder to me of how I want to show up. So as I'm going through the airport, I'm smiling at everybody. And ultimately, I hear a lot of life stories because it seems like people just want to tell me things. It's a bit of a distraction at times, but more so, it just reminds me I want to be intentional with wherever I go. I think about that often because I know when I show up, people are going to expect me to be some kind of way. They're expecting that from you as well. And so for us, it's about, am I going to set myself up for success so that way I can show up and feel like I belong no matter where I go? This allows me to do that. And so when you think about it, as you go off to your next days and encounters and everything, it is that element of who am I being right now and how will that impact the people around me? And then we think about the future. So now, reflection. How do I reflect on something that hasn't happened? It's kind of hard, but you can reflect on who you want to be. Who you are right now, who we all are right now, is not the end of our story. That's why we're still here. We have a lot more things that we can do. But it is about being intentional in that next space. It means that no matter where I go, no matter what the circumstances are, I can consistently be myself in that space. That way people know what to expect from me. So whether I'm here, whether I'm back home in Florida, wherever I go, I get to be me. And so that way, no one gets to tell me that I do or don't belong, because belonging starts within. And when I think about that, I think about being curious. Often, we're told to be curious about other people. We're told, find out, ask questions, find out about this, find out about that. And yes, that is important. But we spend so much time being curious about others that we forget that we have to be curious about ourselves as well. We have to take time to dig deep, to learn what makes us tick in this whole process. Earlier, you saw a slide that said, what makes you feel safe? And then when I asked that question, what makes you feel safe in this kind of environment, in your family environments, in those communities that you're in, when's the last time you thought about that? When's the last time that you thought, ooh, I need this to feel vulnerable? I need this to feel like I'm supported. I need this to use my voice in an authentic way. If you don't know what makes you feel safe, it's going to be very hard for you to understand what other people need to feel safe. It's going to be hard for you to ask them the questions that you really need to ask. So I want you to spend some time on this. I want all of us to be constantly thinking about ourselves and what we need to feel safe. And what I need today might be different tomorrow. It might be different in 10 years. But if I'm not thinking about it, and if I just keep showing up in spaces and hoping that other people will deliver on the needs that I have, but I don't even know what those needs are, then I'm going to be disappointed by the world around me. So it really does count on us to do that introspection and working on identifying what we need so that we can get what we need from others. Now, in that process, I like to think about Gandhi, right? Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Did he? Yes? No? It's interesting. Gandhi never said that. Gandhi said this. He said, we but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, then the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. Now, that's much more profound, but we kind of boiled it down to be the change you want to see in the world. It's easier. It's great on a coffee mug. It's great on a t-shirt. But this is what he's saying. He's saying belonging begins within. We have to do the work, and when we understand ourselves, we can show up for others, and others start to reflect what we need and what we want. And then absolutely, the world starts to change around us. Absolutely, we start to transform communities because of that process. So ultimately, I'm inviting us all to take a spin on the reflection train so that we all end up changing the world around us for the better. Thank you.